I want to start with this month marking 2 years with you as CEO. Bob Iger has officially ridden away from the happiest place on earth, and I want to know how you're feeling. Do you feel like your strategy is clicking and that things are working?
Well, I think as evidenced by our most recent quarter, everything's falling into place. You know, we're filled with optimism here at Disney. We're at the point where we're just at the start of the last year of our first 100 and the inflection point for the start of the next 100. And I think if you look at our parks business, you look at our media business, all fueled by the great content that our internal storytellers get to tell, we're full of optimism. We think that we've got a lot of energy and momentum. We've got a vision for the future, a vision where we're going to appeal directly to our audience using technology and great storytelling. And we really think that it's going to be a more exciting next 100 years than even our stellar first 100 years.
Give us some color on what's driving the burst in subscriber growth at Disney Plus compared to the slowdown last quarter.
Well, you know, we had said for a long time that it's not going to be a linear growth quarter to quarter on Disney Plus, that there were going to be some quarters a little higher, some quarters a little lower. And it's really almost directly a function of what the new content is that's flowing into the service. And obviously that content was impeded and made a little choppy even more by the fact that, you know, we had COVID and it interrupted our production cycles. But as we stated last earnings and this earnings as well, is that flow becomes a little more steady, a little bit more predictable, a little bit more optimal during the second half of this year. And we expect that we're going to actually add more subs in the second half of the year than the first half of the year. So we're very encouraged by that. Again, it'll still be choppier than a perfect linear line, but you know, when you have great storytelling and great brands like we do, it's going to draw a lot of people across the globe. So we're excited about that.
Now, you said it was hard to get people to the theater for family movies, and I wonder when you see that changing and what that means for the next few family titles.
Well, we're very carefully watching the return to theaters, and obviously when you have something like Spider-Man that comes out into the marketplace and it does, you know, gangbusters numbers, we're very encouraged about that, you know, so let's call it the 18 to 34 target demo. That seems to, if you've got the right movie, big blockbuster, great film, based on a franchise, that's back. We are a little more concerned, though, about the family films and some of the films that appeal to the over 35 audience. But we're very, very lucky in that we have the ability to take our films to all the audiences on Disney Plus. And we're encouraged. We hope that the family audience comes back to theaters. But we believe that even with a title like Encanto, which, as you know, has proved to the world that we can build a Disney franchise on the back of Disney Plus, because our licensed merchandise spiked as soon as it came out on Disney Plus. The music went from, I think it was 197 on the top 200 in Billboard to #1 for multiple weeks in a row. We can build a franchise on Disney Plus, so we'd love for theatrical to come back for family movies. We hope it does, but if it doesn't, we know that we're very secure in being able to use our own platform, Disney Plus, to help do that.
We're here with our Bloomberg television and radio audiences with Disney CEO Bob Chapek. I want to talk about parks in more detail. You hit some all-time records with revenue there, but attendance is still, you know, lower or in line, depending on the park that you're talking about. What's the outlook ahead as Omicron wanes? Are you preparing for new variants? Do you see hitting new records in attendance, or is it all about revenue?
Well, we're preparing for anything. I think if the last two years have taught us anything, it's to remain flexible. But if we have a focus on our guest, we believe that it's going to turn out just fine. I think one of the reasons why we've had such a recovery in demand and attendance at our parks is a function of the fact that consumers, our guests, our fans trust us. Not only do we deliver great experiences and tell great stories, but they trust us. And we're going to move very slowly when it comes to attendance increases, because we feel that we want to be very, very responsible. And some of the reasons why we don't have max capacity right now is that we still haven't turned on all of the live entertainment that we've got at the parks, which, as you know, is a really big component of a great Disney experience. But we're moving slow on that because we want to make sure that as you densify people, that our guests feel very comfortable. And we do surveys all the time in terms of what our guests feel is the appropriate density. And so we're metering that. But I must say that the operating performance of parks using that approach has been extraordinarily great. As you know, in our domestic parks, we had a record quarter this past quarter. We're very, very excited about that because even without being able to, maximize the density inside the park because of everything I mentioned, we're getting great performance. And so that, I think that says it all. So no matter what set of circumstances or situations, the world throws at us at Disney, because of our 195,000 unbelievable cast members, they find a way to make our guests have magical memories that last a lifetime.
Now, Disney is leaning into the metaverse, and I'm wondering if you can give us more details on your vision. How could Disney offer products that fit into this? Is it about Lucasfilm? Is it about Industrial Light and Magic, for example? Paint the picture.
It's about all those things. If you step back from it, regardless of where you want to call it, we believe that there's a world where we can add a third dimension of storytelling. I call it sort of a three-dimensional canvas, so that we can take the folks that make our great television shows and make the great music and make the great movies and the great theme park attractions. And what happens if you enable them, you give them the degrees of freedom to paint on that third dimension and don't necessarily constrain it with typical definitions about what's a book, what's a recording, what's a movie, and you let them kind of explore and use both the physical worlds that Disney is uniquely postured to create in our theme parks, but also take the media and the digital and the virtual pieces, which we also have shown that we can do, and use Disney Plus as an opportunity to bring those two things together so we can tell stories in that third dimension. I think it's a great opportunity for us. I think it's the next great horizon for Disney. I think it's the next great horizon in entertainment. And I don't think anybody's as situated as well as the Walt Disney Company is to have our creative geniuses work on that to tell the kind of stories that guests will expect in this new modern world.
You've said you're investing heavily in international local content. Give us some specifics. What does that mean for markets like China and India, especially in light of Netflix's recent hit Squid Game? What's going to drive growth in some of these other markets?
Well, in many of the markets, obviously, we've got global titles that have worldwide appeal, whether it's, Lucas or Star Wars or Marvel or Disney. But in addition to that, we found out in our brief 2-year journey on direct-to-consumer that the localized content in some of these territories is extraordinarily important, and we announced that we were doubling our content slate internationally, and as a result, we're finding that now can be a very major driver. It's not just our great global franchises. Those certainly are a big piece of it. In some markets, it's sports, but really those localized productions, and we just had an organizational change here at Disney that's really going to accommodate so that we can shepherd some of those developments and keep a closer eye on them. But that is really going to be a major driver for us in those local territories. And we're hoping that we've got the ability to have some of those actually flow backwards and become big global franchises as well. So we're all in on local productions, and we've got the experts to do it inside each market.
Okay, I got 30 seconds, Bob. Any update on a sports betting partner for ESPN?
Well, as you know, we believe that aspect of the business is increasingly important for the younger audience who wants to lean forward and engage in sports, not just sit back passively, and we want to enable that. We're bullish about the future of sports at Disney, and whether it's the metaverse or whether it's sports betting, we're all in.